Hours after President Trump invoked an 18th century wartime law, alleged members of Venezuela's prison gang Tren de Aragua arriving in El Salvador. The Salvadorian president sharing this dramatic video on X depicting TDA and MS-13 gang members hauled off into a plane, thrown into a bus, and then their heads shaved as they're now being held in an infamous terrorism confinement center. A senior Trump administration official telling NewsNation in total 261 illegal aliens were deported to El Salvador, of which 137 were deported using that Alien Enemies Act. The timing comes as a federal judge actually blocked deportation flights after Trump invoked that law from 1798. But the Trump administration is firing back now, saying it did not violate that ruling because the planes were already in international airspace. NewsNation's Jorge Ventura live in San Diego with what we're learning about those deportations at this hour. Jorge.
Well, Alex, a senior Trump administration official confirming to NewsNation that the rap sheets of those illegal aliens deported to El Salvador yesterday do include kidnapping, sexual abuse of a child, robbery, and aggravated assault on a police officer. Now, according to El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, the country will be receiving 238 suspected Tren de Aragua gang members and 23 suspected MS-13 gang members who were immediately transferred to the country's mega prison.
Footage from El Salvador's government shows a high-security transfer with shackled prisoners stumbling forward as heavily armed officers push them along. The wrists, ankles, and waist are tightly bound, forcing them to shovel in short, restricted steps. On the tarmac, riot police stand shoulder to shoulder, gripping their batons as helicopters hover overhead, scanning for any disturbances. The men are loaded one by one onto special units and military buses, their heads forced down as officers keep them under strict control. Sirens blare as a convoy of armored vehicles, escorted by special forces, transport them straight to the notorious seaside mega prison, the same facility where El Salvador's government has locked up tens of thousands of gang members in recent years. Inside the prison walls, the men have their heads shaved in assembly line fashion while guards stand over them barking orders. Cameras capture the moment they're wearing white prison uniforms before being marched, hands behind their backs, into tightly packed holding cells. Back in Washington, D.C., a federal judge ruled that deporting migrants without due process violated long-standing U.S. asylum protections. The White House pushing back, saying they didn't violate a court order. Quote, "The order came too late, and illegals were already in international airspace." The El Salvadoran president posting, "Oopsie, too late." His government confirming the inmates will remain in El Salvador with no plans to return them to the U.S. U.S. officials are backing the move. Secretary Marco Rubio called it a fair price for American taxpayers.
And for those 137 illegal aliens deported under the Aliens Enemy Act, that does allow the U.S. government to deport those individuals without trial, Alex.
Jorge, we're also following up on the USS Gravely. That's that guided missile destroyer deployed yesterday to the U.S. Northern Command Area of Responsibility. That marks a major shift in border security efforts. What's the latest that you're hearing on this deployment, and what can you tell us about the broader strategy to secure that border using that destroyer?
Well, Alex, this comes as the U.S. military continues to expand their role when it comes to border security under the Trump administration. Now, the USS Gravely did depart yesterday from the Naval Weapons Station Yorktown. It is headed to the U.S. territorial waters covering continental U.S., Alaska, Canada, and Mexico. Now, the goal here is to counter the illegal immigration, weapons trafficking, and transnational crime in U.S. waters, according to U.S. Northern Command. U.S. Northern Command Commander General also says this deployment does support President Trump's executive order on straightening the border and enforcement at sea. The Department of Defense calls this a major shift, giving the U.S. Navy a direct role in preventing crime before it reaches American shores. Alex.
By land and sea, securing the border. That's NewsNation's Jorge Ventura. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.